look, I think this is a really solid starting map. We were kind of talking about the veto earlier on the desk, and Oregon seems like it's going to be a strong map for Reject. So this could be a really telling sign for the series right out of the gate.
It would be great if it does end on Bank. I'll be completely honest, to see this go the full 3, it would be nothing but deserving in that factor. So, look, Flores banned out to begin with. Nothing really to write home about there. I think generally it's either going to be the Thatcher or the Flores. Second ban, I will be interested to see whether we see something spicy, maybe a Maverick ban out here. Maybe it's just going to be the second Thatcher. Okay, so that is not spicy by any means, but it's going to make the life a little bit more difficult for the attack.
Yeah, look, definitely good bans for Oregon. Very traditional. You know, that Thatcher is almost always out. And Flores in particular, you know, ever since he got introduced, those Rotero drones in particular very strong on Oregon. Lots of shield positions, particularly on Laundry, for example, that you would commonly hold. They can be absolutely shredded by those Rotero drones. So getting that out of there is a good play. And then even these remaining bans here, Manic, the Clash and the Mirror, both fairly standard for Oregon. Clash, quite the nuisance in a lot of sites on Oregon, so just get that out of there and not have to deal with it.
Well, I guess, you know, there's so much use for a Clash on Oregon. You think about all the different sites that he can be, that she can be viable on, and I do think that it is something that it's part and parcel with Oregon. You can generally see it, but whether it does stick or not is always an interesting one. So no Clash at all, no Mirror. Intel going to be a little bit squandered there on the defense, which of course T1 are starting out on. Are we going to see a Glaz hard picked here? No 6-pick. There's no cap. Surely not.
Ooh. We are? Love it. I love seeing a bit of Glaz, not going to lie. Always been a Glaz fan. But, you know, we see it pocket picked on occasions on sporadic maps. It never seems to be for any particular site or, you know, a very specific strategy in terms of like a regular take. It's just more that maybe there's a little play they want to make with it, or I don't know, it could be the nades. I think he still has nades. My God, I'm starting to lose track of some of these shuffles of secondary gadgets. But no, look, I'm really keen to see how the Glaz plays out from window. And outside of that, fairly standard lineup. Loving the Dokkaebi pick as well, actually, from Salty. So this is already quite an interesting lineup, in fact, from Reject.
Well, one thing that we know from the Japanese region, especially, you know, covering the IJC, was the fact that Dokkaebi was either banned out in every single match or was frequently played. So obviously there's a meta within, you know, a sub-region in Japan that really does favor that type of playstyle. So let's have a look what impact that will have as we now lead into the building, lead into the first round of what will be a deciding series for an opportunity to play APAC North. Reject will be as hungry as ever for that. T1 obviously looking to go back-to-back years and seasons, and Salty starts out with a really crisp shot on the fancy. That's not a great start for T1.
Yeah, that's not a great start for T1, and obviously a great start for Reject, and I think if anything, that's going to help Reject a lot. You know, they're coming into this as the underdogs. Again, probably not much expectation on them, but always feels good to get such a strong start.
There we go.
At least on the side of T1, they've been able to find that trade. PJH up at the top of the big tower here on Oregon. He's going to rotate back on through to Attic, reinforce that off. He's just going to slow down the progress here for Reject.
Look, if the first 50 seconds are a sign as to what's to come for this series, I'm strapping myself in, because quite literally, you know, 2 early kills, one really being a spawn peak and the other just being a delayed spawn peak at that. I am excited to see how this one will pan out. Reject at the moment taking a fair bit of control of the eastern side. They've got a main point in Trophy, and now all the util dump comes in. How much more is really there to deny what they've got on the other side?
Window toying with trying to find the peak here.
Nice.
Otan GG's found another one. It's kind of off camera there.
Yep.
Giving Rejects that man advantage coming into the second half of the round. Just under 90 seconds to count. Maverick holding a nice tight angle in towards Attic. This has been a really good setup from Rejects. They're pushing T1 into some tricky positions. And if Crazy Boy, for example, doesn't get a pick out of this, then I think Rejects could be able to run over the top of them. I
love this. Crazy Boy just flirting with the thought of maybe going for that peak, but Tardar Nikki backs off the angle, completely allows Closet to be scot-free. Now, whether that will play an impact, we'll have to wait and see. T1 now playing on the further side of that site. They've got the back of bunks, the back of kids under control, so they're going to allow Reject to kind of tempt fate a little.
Attackers have located a bomb.
T1 just remaining spread out. PJH retaking the top of white here. Might be looking to go for a bit of a flank downstairs. He's going to have to time this well because there is only 40 seconds to go. And Crazy Boy, he's found a pick onto Tato Nikki. Didn't look in the right direction. And already T1, they might have found an opening.
Oh, 11 does manage to find Take coming back through pit. Nice little double there. Window on the Glaz. 1 versus 2. 20 seconds on it. There's a player underneath and a player at the back of Kids. As long as they hold these lines, this should be near impossible to be able to pull out from Window. Gets a little bit more aggressive. In fact, sorry, no. PJH had actually come back up into dorms. My apologies. Or into bunks. And that's a really nice start there for T1.
It is, especially considering there was a couple of instances in that round they were pushed to the back foot. They lost that opening pick, and then in the mid round as well, it felt like Rejects really had good control around site. They'd set themselves up in Trophy. They had some line of sights with the Maverick. They'd really cut that rotate through games in the attic doorway and even in towards Kids from that rotate. So it felt like Rejects were about to kind of lock that in, but it looked like a poorly timed and miscalculated initial push through to attic. Saw that diffuser go down, and at that point, T1 really capitalized, so big credit to T1 to pull that one back.
Now look, I don't like to really divert attention too much. However, there is also another important match being played simultaneously right now. It's between The Last Dance and Team Bliss. It is on the 3rd map, remembering there are no second chances for the South teams. There are 8 teams and only 2 spots for that South promotion. And The Last Dance are 5-2 up on Coastline right now. If you do want to go and check that out, twitch.tv/Cthulhu ANZ. I don't know how to spell Cthulhu, so don't even ask me, but you can look it up online. I do know how to spell it. It's more of a meme, but I'm not going to spell it out on stream.
10 seconds left before insertion.
I'll do it for you. CTHULHU.
There we go.
I hope I got it right now.
You did. And with an ANZ on the end. No, you did get that right. So yeah, there, I believe the ANZ boys are covering that one. So if you do want to keep up to date with what's going on there, it's also an important match with equal kind of stakes to it as Reject and T1. However, right now, this is literally to secure a place in North. And I gotta say, of every player's name that I think I've ever cast, Tada Nikki, it rolls off the tongue in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those kind of satisfying names. I've also always loved No Time GG as well.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like just even a bit of banter right in the name.
Yep.
Look, this is some good little progress early here from Reject. There was some aggression on the rear tower stairs there. It was from I11. Now, he has certainly had a fairly decent 2021, even though T1 themselves didn't. He had some really big matches and can really show that he is a potential up-and-coming impact player if he's on a consistent team. So certainly, you know, if T1 manage to lock in some form, expect I11 to pop off here.
Yep. Well, this could be ambitious. 11 looking to potentially catch that player moving back up the stage. It doesn't look like he's going to stick it for too much longer. Backs away to safety. And the safety that they shall be able to hold. Tada Nikki then finishes off the job at which he first started. T1, for all intents and purposes, that's a bit of an unfortunate timing on the C-Vorth there for Fancy, but regardless, it does, I guess, push Window back off at the angle and ensure that he's playing a little bit more passive now. Reject time is starting to dwindle a little bit. They definitely need to ensure that there is some pressure being put toward T1 before that minute cracks the mark.
Yeah, definitely, because Crazy Boy, he's still set up here in the elbow as the smoke. And you can see also he's still got 3 Toxic Babes in the pocket. Now, coming into the final minute, that's deadly. If they want to try and push Bunker, even Pillar, you know, if they don't put the pressure in Bunker, he can smoke out Pillar. Either way, there's a lot of flexibility there on the defense for T1. So this really is starting to be a crunch time for Rejects. They need to find an opening and get themselves into some nice deep positions.
Oh, not too bad. They've taken laundry control just for now, but they've got a little bit more to do. No Time goes down, but is immediately picked back up, but it won't make a difference because T1 is absolutely annihilating Reject on this take. They have been given nothing, not a single inch anywhere on this map. Salty and Window fall before I can even get their names out of my mouth. What a round from T1 on the basement defense.
Yeah, absolutely huge from T1. Never in doubt, honestly. Like, they just looked solid. Didn't give away any picks. You know, I11 was toying with it around the big tower, but I like that he just kind of shot the drones and pulled away. Didn't over-aggress, didn't overextend. That really could have changed things for Reject, but, you know, we were talking about it as it came to that last minute. Reject had just really failed to take the right amount of map control for that point. You know, they'd done a good job taking meeting. They had electrical hatch open, but that was pretty much it. They needed to get more control around pillar, around bunker. They tried to push deep to freezer, but that got fragged out by T1, and that was pretty much all over at that point. So look, this has been a really good start from T1. These first 2 rounds have been really good.
Been convincing, and that's an issue for Reject that they will need to address, all right? It's all good and well to, you know, have the rounds kind of slip away as long as they're being competitive, but honestly, with the way that T1 have approached these first 2 rounds, we do need to see somewhat of a response from Reject. I gave them a good look in. I really did back them in for this one, so I need to see that glimmer of hope. I need to see that moment where we really look to them and go, yeah, that's what we've been waiting for. That's what we've been looking for. And I guess that really will come down to a lot of the conversation that we have with this APAC North bracket, which is how much damage can the teams outside of APAC North really do. You know, we do look to the Sengoku, we look to the Reject, which are the only 2 teams left outside of the 21 North season in this promo relegation tournament. And I mean, we just saw what happens when Sengoku meets Fav in a tournament where it is, you know, all on the line. So I'd hate to see it double down here, but it does look like T1 have started out with the right mentality and the right approach.
There's also a point too that Shin made, and that is that, you know, these teams that are defending their spots, such as Fav and T1, they really have all of the last 3 months really to have prepped for this single BO3 that can help them re-qualify, whereas the other teams, you know, they've had to continue to try and qualify through the various leagues or pathways they had to get here. And then they also had to play yesterday, so yeah, there's definitely more going for those defending teams, but at the end of the day, like, Fav had a strong result, and so far, T1's showing pretty strong in these first couple of rounds. But look, I think Reject still just probably need to settle in. There's some good opportunities ahead for them in this match.
Very much agreed. And it's always a marathon, especially when you're looking at a best of 3. And, you know, Clubhouse, which is our second map that will take part, I'll be keeping a keen eye on. But look at this, I really love that confidence from Window. There has to have been some really solid droning to know that there is no one either at stage or at the kitchen door to shut that push down. So Reject so far have taken a very solid amount of control.
They're looking good now. Crazy Boy is going to start to be under a bit more pressure here in meeting these line of sights open from the big tower. He's going to have to play just much deeper. And you can see Reject, they want to try and flush him out. There's really good time management as well. They've still got over a minute to try and solidify these positions. As long as Window doesn't get re-aggressed at this doorway, he can kind of hold Kitchen at bay. And that might be almost ready for a plant. That nade could have been huge.
It could have been. At the very least, it would have, you know, dealt with that that shield. It's not to be now. Salty looking to make an opportunity here that could look like a bit of an opening from the heavens above. Take in the meantime takes a bit of damage, but it's no time that ensures the kill on the Crazy Boy. T1, it's slipping away from them right now. That nade could be good as well. Depends where it lands, and it is. I-11 is taken out with little less than no response. This could be flawless from Reject, not just in the way they keep their players alive, but in their approach that they have taken, and it damn well is. Reject with a nice 3rd round.
All right, take that. Flawless round from T1, answered straight back with a flawless round from Reject. Well, that's really just thrown it back in our face in terms of the confidence we'll have in the T1 after those first couple. And I think that's just great from Reject to be able to kind of weather those and then just relax themselves and take it as they come. Because, you know, that site can be a little bit difficult to attack at sometimes. It does require some good timing in terms of time management, working together and coordinating, just to make sure you don't overstep, because it can be very easily caught off guard by some of those defense positions. And look, they just did a great job, won a lot of their gunfights, and here they are. And that could spark a bit of momentum. That looked very clean from them, and they're going to get another shot at Kids Dorms, which, mind you, back in round 1, did look pretty good for the better part of the first kind of 2 minutes of that round.
Yeah, and that's, we've always talked about, you know, there's 3 phases in a round. There's, you know, phase 1, which is obviously things like your spawn peaks, your droning, making sure that you've covered exactly what you need to when you're approaching that building. Then you've got phase 2, which is doing a lot of the util damage. It's making sure that you've got your rotates and setting yourself up for success. And then there's phase 3, which is just balls to the wall aggressive. It's every important 1v1 or 2v1. It's all of the fights that take place that really determine the round. And for all intents and purposes, Reject actually did a fantastic job in the first two phases. It was just when it got to that final 30 seconds, 45 seconds that T1 managed to double down and bunker in. So that's probably where I'm looking at right now. If they can replicate that same success in the first 2 minutes, I think that they should be able to set themselves up. But T1, no slouches, and they're very aggressive in the opening 30 seconds.
They are very aggressive. Really want to try and find this opening. We saw I11 toying with it the last couple of rounds as well, but they don't seem to want to hard commit it. So see whether it pans out. Doesn't look like it. Reject just being very procedural here. This is almost exactly how they began that first round. And PJH, he's actually still sticking to his post here. It doesn't look like Reject are at all aware of it. So this could be a little bit of a catch from PJH. Might be going for this run out. Oh. He whiffs though.
Oh my god, PJ Hayes, really unfortunate not to find anything there. It was a really decent play, and I really enjoyed the kind of setup for that from T1, allowing him to be in that small tower and then utilizing it to perfection. Reject now. They're going to take their time in dealing with this utility. We're now into phase 2 and it's almost on the mark. But it starts to initiate. There's a player over, and they're going to be careful. If that C4 gets stuck on the ceiling, I don't know whether it would have mattered. Tala Nikki was watching it pretty closely, but it's always something you're going to be careful of. Sometimes just a small little oversight can really cost you.
This has again been pretty good time management here from Reject as well on this attack. They're getting set up nicely. They haven't found a pick yet though. That's the biggest difference between this round and round 1. They did manage to find that opening pick a lot earlier. But regardless, they're doing a really great job with this progress. They're about to get this hard breach open, and there it is. The opening pick goes to the hands of Reject. Fancy off the board. He hasn't had much of an impact at the moment. And now Tadaniki, he's made light work of that game's wall.
And you can see how attentive they are to that position, because it was almost one of the pitfalls for them in the last round. I11 has been able to take down Salty, which is the Maverick. However, they've got all of their T's crossed at the moment in terms of that hard breach, so it should be somewhat okay. They'll start to deal with these players on site. Hopefully, the utility has somewhat been dwindled and kind of diminished in that aspect, but there's still a fair bit for Reject to get done here in a 4v4.
Definitely is. Only 40 seconds to go. This is not an easy site to kind of just duck in and plant. You've got to go deep and you've got to be well covered. So they have to be very thorough here in this setup. A Surya Gate has been redeployed. That is going to require some extra utility or a drone to be able to clear it. Tank it, which means they're going to have to lose some HP. And now time is really just starting to not be their friend at all. T1 sitting comfortably back in these positions. They're going to try and milk this clock.
They've gone straight into games, which has been a big call, knowing that they've got that kind of line of sight all the way through toward the pit position as they swing around. What a shot! Oh my god, T1 clean house. What a retake that is.
That was clean, actually. Like, that was insane. They just held to their positions so well and coordinated the little push to shut down the plant. And now, of course, the plant did go down, but regardless, it was just super clean, tidying up all the people holding. So by the time the plant had actually gone down, actual no chance for the planter to really kind of get up and save face. So that was absolutely insane from T1. Very clean from them to take the lead out to 3-1.
An instant retake. I guess, you know, so much of this game has changed, and a lot of the discussions that we have with pro players has become around, one, the mentality that you bring into the games, but also two, it has given a huge emphasis to winning your ones, and T1 do that absolutely perfectly there. Every single one that was isolated, if you're looking over at pit or maybe even into the games there, hitting that shot through that small little murder hole created by the Hibana, it's all of those small factors there that really open things up. And now we're going to see T1 go to what was their most convincing sight of all so far. You think about the approach that Reject had down in basement, and T1 had every avenue covered. Reject as well, you have to remember, literally attacked from blue, from rear stage, from freezer, and from laundry. So if T1 aren't doing exactly what they need to be doing, if they're not comming on point, there is always that chance that that gap could completely open up and just tear through the defense. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how Reject decide to attack this one.
Yeah, certainly need to take some key learnings from the previous round or previous attempt, because it really did not go that great. Loving the Monty from Salty though.
Yep.
Of course, we have seen that play a lot of impact for some of these APAC teams in the past. You know, teams like Invictus Gaming certainly come to mind with Lunametal and his Monty plays. Maybe this is what they need. Maybe it's a communication thing. Feel like they didn't have enough intel in front of them. That can often really stall out a push if you're not great with your drone management or just not able to get the information you need. So the Monty is a good way to secure that. You just straight up face check it with a big shield in your face and you get that all sweet info.
Really loving this. It's kind of, you foreshadowed it and it's happening as you're saying, really just taking control of rear stage there. And it's important to take control of those staircases, otherwise you're really trying to deal with so many different avenues. Fancy, this could be a massive C4, it's gone over the backside, but Salty manages to rotate in the correct manner. No one there to follow up from T1 either. I really like that C4. And again, it just keeps him honest at this point. However, there is no more utility in terms of, you know, explosives that can really do the damage. Actually, no, sorry, I'm looking at the impacts now of PJH, but I would dare say they're probably going to be held on for a little bit longer. So, as much as Reject have taken some space here, they also haven't forced T1 into an uncomfortable position or even forced them back at all.
Alright, and still 90 seconds on the round, so they've got a bit of time here. Tadaniki's now got the electrical hatch open, so some really crucial line of sights in towards bunker and just, again, pressure on towards site. But this is what happened to them in round one, and they really failed to get it past this point. T1 are just not going to give them that inch. They've got to try and force something to happen here. They've got to find an opening and be able to take that next bit of map control. And
in this final minute as well, Raven, this is where we get to see what Reject are trying to achieve. We get to see where those players are lining up. We get a good kind of story as to how they're going to approach this. It looks like Salty's being pushed at the moment. Fancy trying to find the shield break. He's not going to get it as well. Or the pistol gets brought out. Tarka in the meantime manages to find a kill, but he does get taken down. So it's a 1-for-1 piece with 50 seconds left. Reject are scrambling to try and find an opening.
They really are scrambling. It's a great choice of word there, Rob. Fancy as well. He is just trying to really battle with this Monty. He's pulling him on these stairs. Can't find the opening he needs. And he's finally shut down by Salty. And just like that, T1, they've fought up against Reject. 2v3 in favor of T1 though in this final 30 seconds.
Certainly his attention was taken away as they were forcing that Monty fight. Someone was able to drop into Electric, however it didn't last for too much longer. Crazy Boy, does he get back in time? Is the reinforcement out? Salty decides to push in. It's denied that entrance point, so at the very least there is a soft wall to play from. No time. GG is running out of no time. Holding as tight to the line as he can, but I don't think this is even near achievable. T1 once again with a convincing basement hold.
Yeah, really good from T1, and something that I'm just continuously impressed with them so far on Oregon is they're just not giving Reject that opening. Outside of that first round where there was a bit of a cheap kind of early opening pick in the hands of Reject, T1 are just, they're not overextending and they're really playing into their strengths. They're holding great positions and they're recognizing that Reject are kind of stalling out. They're taking that additional map control. They're not hard pushing out bunker. They're really slow at clearing out elbow.
Yep.
They're not really taking pillar that effectively. Even with the Monty, they just, like the Monty was looking at pillar for a good 90 seconds all by himself, something like that. So I just really like that T1 are keeping it chill. They're just playing to their strength and it's got them here to this 4-1 lead.
Now, we do have to take a small moment, Raven, because I think we were all expecting a bit of a different storyline here. We will light a candle, but first we will say if you don't want any spoilers from the other APAC South matches, please mute the stream, you know, close, put your hands over your ears, whatever you want to do, walk away from the stream for a second. Unfortunately for Australia and for OS, Team Bliss have been taken out, but it does mean a huge up for the Last Dance. They now go on to face Order in that upper bracket. And Raven, we could probably take a small moment to talk about that. I think that all of us on the desk would have expected Bliss to really be facing Order in that upper bracket.
Yeah, look, definitely expected. They had been such a strong team at OCN all year, like really tracking in the top kind of 3 area consistently. And they had been very confident coming into the APAC promo relegations. They have been boot camping at a HQ. You know, we really felt like they were going to be their best form, but nope, that's it. In this BO3 against the Last Dance, just hasn't come out their way, and that's just how it is sometimes. And
it is
not the only team to face it like that in the promo relegations.
No, it is the way the cookie crumbles. And for those that don't keep a close eye on the no way! For those that aren't keeping a close eye on the stream, Take gets his head absolutely ripped off and obliterated there. What a catch. I believe it's Mandy who's on the obsticks today. Solid job there. But just going back to my previous point, I do think that, you know, for those that have kept an eye on the O scene, it is a very huge disappointment for Bliss, and I'm sure they'll be kicking themselves at that. But regardless, the show goes on, the story does too. PJH, I should say, was looking quite antsy for a second there down kitchen hallway, but instead has decided better of it and is backing away with those smoke babes in hand.
Bomb located by attackers.
Rejects certainly had some comfort on the attack this time, or previously on this site, but they lost that opening pick on Take, so don't think it'll have a massive impact being it was the Twitch, but regardless, they're still playing from that man down. Does give T1 that opening, and I11, you know, he'd been hunting for that opening pick quite a few rounds, so he has finally got it. Regardless, Rejects doing a great job progressing this attack. Opening up the stage wall is certainly going to help them set up for the plant, but Salty, he's on a bit of a mission. Going through towards the laundry stairs. Crazy boy, he's deep with this C4. This could be huge. The Glaz right around the corner could be the victim to this. Crazy boy tries to go for the throw.
That's a really good pickup. That's what we call doing your due diligence, droning ahead, making sure that you know exactly where these players hide. C4 in hand, waiting for that time. C4 comes out, and it's going. No, I thought Window would have been waiting for that, but instead he just falls victim to an explosive in his face. Salty coming up through the basement is shut down. No time, can't get anything done. And Tada Nikki, as much as I love your name, a 1v4 does not seem on the cards.
Could be a very sweet 1v4 here for Tadaniki, but the positions that you see T1 here holding, it's going to be really tough to contest. There's a lot of info that can be called out from various teammates. He's not going to be able to just sneak to site and try to go for a comfortable plant. Also only has just under 20 seconds. It's, yeah, it's going to be rough.
I don't mind that little rotate across, but literally every single way you walk in, you are going to be caught out. Whitey first half from T1, shutting down any thought of this discussion on Oregon. It's 5-1.
It is 5-1, and T1, they are really running away with this. It's just been such a strong half for them. Of course, maybe it's just the defended nature of Oregon. It doesn't feel like that, honestly. I think just the way that T1 have adapted to Reject's playstyle has been really great. You know, I was kind of praising them for their passiveness in a way for some of their defense rounds, but that last one, I think they identified when Rejects got that single flawless victory on that site that maybe they played too passive, so they dulled it up. They played a little bit more aggressive this time around. They found themselves that opening pick. They were playing deeper in towards stage, got the C4 kill. They swung breach, you know, they actually played into that kind of window of opportunity against Reject, and it worked out really well. So the adaptation we're seeing from T1 already in that first half has been great.
And it's what we really, when you think about this tournament, you think about the consequences or the rewards. You know, you manage to win. You are well and truly booking yourself a full season in APAC North, and those are the kind of teams that we want to be seeing. Teams that can adapt on the fly, teams that can change their approach to a different site on any given round, depending on operator select and, of course, different approaches from the attacking side. So already T1's storyline looking much, much better here, as Reject are really, really praying that they can get something done. To fall on your own map pick when Clubhouse is up next doesn't instill a lot of confidence.
Definitely doesn't. And look, oh, bit of a rush here. Just straight down? Yeah, straight down laundry stairs. Here we go.
Okay, got no problem with that whatsoever. T1 looking to get this done and dusted nice and quickly. They've already pushed into laundry, but Tada Nikki on the other side with a shotgun will shut down that player pushing in. And a second as well. Crazy boy is going to have to hit some crazy shots. Where is Fancy? Where is his Robin to the Batman? He's nowhere near him. So there is so much work for T1 to get done here. This is certainly going to give Reject a moment to breathe, an opportunity, provided they don't get too ambitious, and they aren't. They're taking their time here. Going to be closed out in less than a minute. Reject with a nice response to a push from T1.
Wow. I mean, look, great call to go for the rush. Maybe they felt just being the first defense round in particular could catch them off guard. And look, they got a fairly clean entry to laundry. They just lost those gunfights. Could have maybe gone a different way if those opening picks obviously went their way, but I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue for T1. Always good to try. They could have been at 6-1 match point off a cheesy little rush, but not to be. They've still got a fairly big deficit to carry ahead.
They do indeed, and I would dare say with T1 taking that first approach, they're probably going to sit back on their laurels a little bit more now, and maybe you know, with that 3-round lead, they've got time to play. But we've seen this kind of fall by the wayside many times before. I'm thinking about yesterday. I believe it was actually the Sengoku match. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe it was the upper bracket with Roffle. It was two. It was two. They had 4 or 5 match points, and I believe it was on Oregon too. So we know that leads can very quickly be brought back. And Oregon, look, probably isn't a 5-1 kind of half to your defense, but it certainly does favor the defense. So provided Reject can kind of buckle up here, T1 might be in for a bit of a ride.
Attackers must locate and defuse the bomb.
This is a very important round for Reject because obviously they need to stop T1 getting to match point. Only 2 rounds in it so far for Reject. If T1 managed to get this one, they're going to have to get 4 consecutively just to save it, which just feels like it would be unlikely at that point. So, time to dig deep. Got a Blackbeard on the side of T1, and we've already seen Blackbeard feature a little bit in the earlier series.
Yeah.
It's PJH's turn to bring the face shield.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Yahoon, I believe, that was bringing it for Sengoku, and it really did not favor them whatsoever. There is clearly a lack of intel there from T1, worried about that small tower run out, because from what I can see, there was not a single player over there. So very clearly, they just need to be a little bit cautious, and they're taking their time on each of these approaches. Within the first minute, they've been able to deal with that kind of util that sits across every single time in Trophy, but it's not so much a one objective, if you will. Reject aren't holding it. They're sitting back and waiting for that to happen.
Certainly are. Not going to over-aggress right here. This is a good angle for PJH to hold, though. You know, he can really cut off games. And if they try and peek, he's going to have that millisecond advantage with that face shield to kind of win those gunfights and really hold the angle. But T1 going to have to start progressing this a little bit, and that they do. Fancy's going to start using these Selma charges to open up the wall. There's an aggressive player on the other side with a C4. Not caught out by T1, but it doesn't really matter. And actually, he's caught out by T1 completely.
Yep.
Fancy gets the pick onto Salty, and just like that, T1 with the man advantage.
Certainly is. They're going to try and double down now. Fancy a little bit lucky to be alive there. C4, I believe that was, coming down and not really playing the full impact that I'm sure Reject would have been looking for. Also, that Smoke Babe hasn't forced him back off the angle whatsoever. Who is that all the way down by Showers Corridor? It's actually Tardar Nikki, trying to find himself in a bit of a cheeky position. It's not really going to pay anything just yet because T1 are nowhere near him. And things kind of slow back down here as they look for that opening. Fancy manages to shut down Window as well, who is proned behind the couch.
Jeez, T1 just running over the top of Reject now. 40 seconds to go. Only 2 defenders left on site. I11, he just cleans up Take like he's nothing. And no time GG. He's got 5 players to find, and it's going to be rough, and he's not going to have a shot. It's T1 with a flawless, moving themselves to match point here, Manic.
Yeah, expected, honestly, with the way that we saw T1 in that first half. This has been nothing short of a dominant performance so far, and I mean, we're only getting started in this series. This is map 1. This is Reject's map pick as well. I do need to stress that for the viewers at home. This is insane. I mean, expected Reject to really be able to put up a fight here, but T1 has pretty much just shut them out completely. And I think we were kind of sitting back going, oh yeah, like we're looking at the map picks, we're looking at the vetoes, and it kind of feels like, you know, it was pretty even. Coming into this, Reject had a 2-1 record on Oregon, whereas T1 had a 2-3 record. So, you know, stats do show that Reject probably would have a much better fare on this, but it's just not the case. And I think that it's always a big discussion point that we have surrounding a team like T1. They're from APAC North, so the level of competition is much higher than it is for Reject, who plays only in the RJC, RJL, I believe. So it can be quite deceiving Regardless, T1 are well and truly showing us why they deserve to be back in APAC North, and provided this continues to go in this direction, they will be.
Definitely, this has been a really good map, and honestly, of all the maps in the video, I felt like this was Reject's best shot. You know, the guys on the desk also said if Reject is to win the series, it probably needs to be a 2-0. So this is really a rough result if it continues to go this way, is the 7-2, 7-3, whatever it may be in the end. Reject, though, like I was prefacing in the previous round, they do have 4 consecutive rounds that they need now just to save this map, just to push it to overtime. It feels like it's a little out of reach at this point.
Yep. It's the only way to put it. It is and does feel like it's just kind of diminished any opportunity for Reject to take this first map, and you know, the series maybe with it too, but we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves. We've only got right here and right now, but trends are very much being set here. T1 really showing us the kind of prowess that they have on this roster, and I mean, you look at the frag department, it's just, it's a really solid performance pretty much from all members on T1. And Fancy, although he's only got 2 kills, we've seen him a number of times playing quite a large impact on those defensive rounds. So everyone chipping in here. The Dorm's defense for Reject, with window actually extended into closet, might catch off T1. Have to wait and see what that due diligence is truly like.
Yeah, very cheeky from window. Reject just kind of throwing everything that they can at T1. Arakaze, though, not overextending. This is a pretty pivotal part of the round, but also a bit of a slow progress from T1. They're being very cautious, maybe predicting here that Reject were going to dial up the aggression and try and make some of those desperate moves to change the tides. Very much aware that this Aruni is playing in the closet.
Yep.
So it is just a matter of time in this pinch. You see the yellow ping. This could be huge.
Certainly could be. Biding their time as well and waiting. Window. Poor. Magnets. How many more will be in there? How much more protection does he have? The Sawyer gate. It's back up. And it's just wasting so much time. T1 can't get this done right now. Really, this has burnt far too much time, Raven.
Really has. 50 seconds to go. It's going to be a bit of a rough execute. That being said, there has been some progress already made on their behalf for them by the defense. It's a good refrag from Crazy Boy. But again, this time is not really on their side. Reject still in some really good deep positions. They can hold some crossfires. And this 30-second execute is going to be pretty tricky to pull off for T1.
Smoke bait to cut off that closet rotate as well. That hasn't been reinforced. Fancy on the big window. A lot set up here for Reject. Almost the analogy of all the bases are loaded, waiting for that home run hit to knock it home, but it's Tadar Nikki taking down I-11. Things are starting to fall apart here for T1, and it looks like PJH is the only member standing. He could win this right now. No time, can't get it done. PJH closes it out early here for T1. They're 1-0 up in the series.
What an unreal map from T1. Look, I'm going to eat my words. We felt like Reject might have the shot here. I said that T1 would probably have to have their second chance in the 3rd place match tomorrow. I mean, look, the series isn't over, but I tell you what, that was a convincing Oregon. Absolutely dominating. 7-2 victory.
Yep.
Just, if that was a meal, it wouldn't have touched the sides, Rob.
No, it really wouldn't have. And, you know, we've got so much more to come for Reject, or so we hope, because T1 are really putting in some solid work here on Oregon. I mean, I feel like we only just casted like a couple of rounds. That was absolutely insane. The dominance that